So James Comey, military tribunal, day 1. So is it like conspiracy theory onion? No. People do not read these... Okay, I read these stories and I know they're fake. But this guy is trying to convince QAnon people that these are real news stories. They are not. It's just bullshit. Thank you, Bittergrin, for gifting 5 tier 1 subs to the community. I appreciate that. So I see these posted on QAnon forums and stuff as if they're real news. They're hilariously badly written, though, so let's take a look at this fanfic, shall we? As Donald J. Trump prepares to be reinstated as the President of the United States this July or August, the U.S. military has been amplifying efforts to litigate cases against deep state traitors whose names appear on a lengthy list of sealed indictments that Trump and acting AG Jeff Rosen had written in anticipation of finally draining the swamp. Why don't they think for 5 seconds, oh, they were in office for 4 years, why didn't Trump drain the swamp then? That's weird. Schwiggity Schwa, thanks for 16 months. Steve with a Q with 100 says, congrats on the name change. Thanks very much. We are at 38% to level 3. The Deep State's latest casualty is former FBI Director James Comey, who on Thursday morning sat opposite a military tribunal and listened to Vice Admiral John G. Hancock spell out charges that would send Comey to gallows for atrocities committed against law-abiding citizens. The atrocities being, they weren't a Trump sycophant. And I don't necessarily like James Comey, for the record. But, like, Trump basically said to him, I need you to be loyal to me, like a fucking mob boss, which is not how our government is supposed to run. And Comey was like, no, that's not how this works. And Trump fired him for it, so that's fun. John Lee 3000, thanks for 3 months. J Victory Official with 100 bits says, hype train. Princess Amelia with 30 bits says, in August, but we're almost out of August. The Navigator 4 with 30 bits, thank you very much. We are at 69% to level 3. Nice. Vice Admiral Hancock opened the day with a scathing assault on Comey's character, accusing him of ordering the deaths of countless citizens in the name of following orders issued by his former master, Barack Hussein Obama. Comey, Vice Admiral Hancock told the 3-officer panel, had helped orchestrate Obama's clandestine aerial war and guillotine execution programs. Obama had guillotine execution programs? That's fun. Puka says, wait, they do know that Trump lost, right? They don't think he did. They're wrong, but no, they don't think he did. Roman Civilian with 300 bits says, have a happy Tuesday. Thank you. Ice Queen says, shouldn't draining the swamp have been the first thing they did, or the second after after build the wall? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how they justify this. Lord Cuckbucket, thank you for 9 months. This is a sub baby. What's the name of the author of this? Michael Baxter. This baby's name is Michelle Baxter. It's a girl. Moppy Mutton says, noise. Shigdy Schwa with 100 bits says, grats on the name change. I finally got my first appointment to the local trans clinic this Thursday, so that's great. That's awesome. Good for you. 0M80, thank you for gifting 5 tier 1 subs to the community. Jovi is strong, thanks for the bits, and we are at 25% of level 5. Anyway, Obama's clandestine aerial war and guillotine execution programs, which targeted persons on Obama's infamous enemies list, his infamous enemies list, as if this is not only a real thing, but something that's infamous. As if everyone knows about this fictional thing that this website has made up. The DAC with 100 bits says, A. That's funny, too, because an enemies list sounds like the kind of thing Trump would have. He showed the panel classified internal FBI documents bearing Comey's signature. One document acknowledged the FBI's participation in an aerial strike that killed 16 members of a Colorado militia who had gathered to protest Obama's guillotine program. What guillotine program? What are they fucking talking about? Remember when 16 militia members were mysteriously blown up by a drone and no one knew that happened? What happened? I remember that. Quote, Comey told Obama that air and drone strikes were an effective means to silence what was then a very powerful opposition movement, and he told Obama that guillotines would be more effective than bullets to silence persons opposing Obama's war of terror on Americans. Comey wrote, quote, It's a quote within a quote. Studies have demonstrably proven the effectiveness of guillotines in gaining compliance. If a man sees his wife shot, he'll become enraged and vengeful. If he sees his wife's head sliced off, he will cower in fear and become submissive, end quote. A covert air war on Americans. Guillotine studies, Vice Admiral Hannock said. What the fuck? What the fuck is this shit? Lord Cuckbucket says, thanks for bringing out the big stinky baby that was within all of us the whole time. Of course. Cites fiction as fact. No, that's more like if they say like, if they cite like 1984 as if it's a real thing, more so than just like as a metaphor or as a, I don't know how to explain it. QAnon people do it a lot, but that's not what this is. It has to be citing like a fictional movie or book or something, not just a lie. Princess Amelia says, this is actually unironically entertaining fan fiction. Shame it's doing actual harm to American democracy, right? It's really fucked up. Ice Queen says, what do you think goes into the Supermax prisons? Come on, I thought everyone knew this. Goes on in, rather. He approached the defense table where Comey sat alone and stared down the defendant. Quote, what kind of maniac are you? He asked. Comey asked if he could address the panel. From the moment of my arrest, I've been pressured to implicate... We have a minute left, by the way, and we're at 33% to level 5. From the moment of my arrest, I've been pressured to implicate Barack Obama in imaginary criminal actions. These documents, some are fabricated, others are hypothetical role-playing scenarios that never actually happened. Barack is a good man, he always has been, probably the best president this country ever had or will have. I don't think Comey would say that, he's a Republican. These scenarios you're hearing about, Obama had no part in it. It was Hillary Clinton and Brennan whom the FBI collaborated with, but they never took place, Comey explained. Jesus Christ. Chrysia says, 16 militia members is a highly effective resistance. Hey, they had scopes on their guns, okay? They had bump stocks, so. 38% with like 30 seconds left. I don't know if we'll make it to level 5. Lord Cuckbucket says, remember the good old days when the fan fiction just involved tentacles and cleavage? The good stuff still does. Vice Admiral Hannock told the panel that Comey, as an intelligence official, had been trained and had trained others to lie for a living, unmoved by Comey's soliloquy. He said Comey's unquenchable thirst and insatiable appetite for power led him down a deep, dark tunnel from which there was no escape. Princess Amelia, thank you for gifting 3 subs. The DAC, thanks for 145 bits. Moppy Muttons with 100. We're at 97% with 10 seconds left. We're so close. I don't know if we're going to do it. Ooh. Oh, so close. 97%. Still, 4 out of 5. Not bad. Thank you, everyone, for all the hype. I will put on 4 of the 5 things. So probably not the jacket, because it's the hottest. Dang, what happened to my cool sunglasses that I wanted to wear? Must have left them in my car or something. What are you, cool sunglasses? I guess we can try the jacket, but I'm probably going to get really, really hot. Sky Comet Fallen says, this isn't even conspiracy theory. They're literally making up interviews wholesale. Yeah, that's what makes it funny. It's interesting that you're willing to name drop people who are now dead or soon will be. We know Obama masterminded all of this. Your testimony aside, he will eventually sit where you're sitting now. And we know these documents don't represent make-believe events, Vice Admiral Hannock said. His trenchant commentary on Comey's role seems to strike a chord with the panel, as all 3 members nodded uniformly when he labeled Comey an odious human being, an abomination to humanity. Let's see how fictitious this really is, he said. After a short recess, Vice Admiral Hannock introduced a witness for the prosecution who attended the tribunal via Zoom video call. He introduced himself as Derek White, a 22-year-old black male who claimed that in 2015 he had seen his father's execution at the hands of men wearing FBI and FEMA jackets. Oh, they sure are afraid of FEMA. Moppy Mutton says, QAnon version of Penthouse Forum. Dear Penthouse Forum, I never thought I'd have a military tribunal with James Comey, at the end of which his head was cut off. But he recounted events that transpired during the historic flooding outbreak of Texas and other southern states in May 2015. Quote, Strumbling for Wi-Fi says, just thought of a way to make these QAnon people be as persecuted as they actually feel. The next Q rally, just flash mob them and make their event look like a Muslim wedding. Our military will do the rest with drones. Ooh, dark. Quote, I was just 16. Me and my mother, we lived in a ratty house southeast of Houston. My father lived on the streets because she called him a bum. I had a small job, and sometimes I'd go where I knew my father would hang out to give him a few dollars when I could. This is such a white conspiracy theorist trying to write what they think a young black man's experience is. The night of the storms, I was worried about him. He didn't like to stay in shelters because people got beat up or worse there. He said the streets were safer. I had to sneak out after Mother went to bed, and I found my father and some other homeless guys he trusted and hung with near a closed-up storefront. Standing beneath an awning, I gave him $10 and was about to head home when 4 guys wearing FBI and FEMA jackets told them my daddy and his friends. Like, the vernacular is, like, flip-flopping. It's like sometimes he's trying to sound like a casual early 20s young black man from, like, Texas, and sometimes he slips into formal speech or more formal speech. It's very strange. My daddy and his friends, they'd bring them to the shelter with food. They didn't want to go, but those guys forced them to, said the streets were unsafe because of the weather, and they didn't want to be responsible if they drowned or got caught in a twister. One of them said, what about the kid? And another guy, I guess, he was one in charge, said, take him too. They put us in this minibus and drove. I was scared shitless, Mr. White explained, clearly emotional. He continued, my father told me not to worry. Well, they drove us all the way to Texas City docks where there's this boat, a barge-like ship, and they brought us on it. It was strange because there was only one light on the whole thing. One of the men tells me I'm going to watch because I'm going to be the last. He pulls out a gun, shoots one of my father's friends in the head, and shoves him overboard. We're all held at gunpoint, trembling, dazed. You know, they bring us below decks in a cargo room or something, but there's no cargo, just a guillotine. How tall is the boat? Because the guillotine needs some height for the thing to reach terminal. Okay, whatever. One guy tells me I'm going to watch my father die. Short of it is one by one their heads, including my father's, went in that fucking machine. I screamed and cried and begged and pleaded to God not to die. One of them, the guy in charge, I guess, must have felt some kind of guilt because he told the others to let me go. They said no one would believe me anyway, and they were right. My mother didn't believe me. Media didn't believe me. No one believed me, and I buried away this story for a very long time. So the FBI and FEMA, according to this idiot, are going around and murdering random homeless people for reasons. And then they intentionally took a witness in order to silence them because they were concerned about witnesses. But then after they brought the witness to the killing, just to show them even more wrongdoing by showing them murdering people with a guillotine, then they decide to let the witness go? What happened to their concern about the witness saying something? Because they were concerned enough to bring him with the intent to kill him, but him crying made them feel bad, so they let him go? Were the other people not crying? Like, what the fuck is this? It's so badly written. Dead men tell no tales. True. James Comey erupted in laughter. A fanciful, fabricated tale. This is what you call credible? Even if we're true, what does it have to do with me or Barack? It has everything to do with you. We know that you and Obama's FEMA director, Craig Fugate, authorized the described events with Obama's encouragement. We will recess until tomorrow, but I tell you now that we have former subordinates of yours who will give testimony tomorrow. Bluffing, Comey told Vice Admiral Hannock, was the last act of desperate. We'll see you tomorrow, Vice Admiral Hannock replied, and he said the tribunal will resume at 10 a.m. Friday. The continue of this story is James Comey sentenced to death by guillotine. Hey, Raiders, thank you. Left Flank Vets, thank you so much for the raid. Everyone go check out Left Flank Vets. Really great channel here on Twitch. Leftist channel run by veterans who talk about all sorts of topics. So go check them out. They are excellent. Highly recommend. Blackwing... Oh, I guess I should explain what we're doing. Today's Tinfoil Tuesday, so we are looking at conspiracy theories. Really, really bad ones. This is a fake news website that conspiracy theorists will cite, usually QAnon people, where they just make up bullshit stories that aren't true. For instance, this one is James Comey sentenced to death by guillotine. So we're reading this, and then we'll move on to some other conspiracy stuff. I'm Hannah. I am a leftist streamer. I debunk conspiracy theories, make fun of right-wing grifters like Tim Pool or Ben Shapiro, all sorts of fun stuff. So give me a follow if you like what you see, or don't. Whatevs. Bittergrin says, wait, why did they harvest the kids' adrenochrome? That's just wasteful. Or why didn't they? Blackwing Hecate says, wait, is this about African warlord Lord Comey, as in Comey 2012 Comey? No. Different Comey. Sorry. This is former FBI Director James Comey, not that Comey. Tumak Von Raven, thanks for 11 months. Pure Big Mad Boatman, thanks for 5 months. Princess Amelia with 30 bits says, not just sentenced to death, death by guillotine. That's the best type. Yeah, it's ironic because of the fake things they said he did. So it goes on. On Friday, June 4th, a military tribunal at Guantanamo Bay found former FBI Director James Comey guilty of treason and murder and sentenced him to death by guillotine. A symbolic gesture since Comey seemed to take perverse pleasure in the beheading of others. Citation, please. The officers judging the military's case against Comey reached a verdict shortly after Vice Admiral John G. Hannock of the U.S. Navy Judge Advocate General Corps finished grilling a former FBI official who testified that Comey had indeed committed unlawful atrocities against law-abiding American citizens. Speaking of which, we're doing conspiracy bingo if you came from the raid. First person to win to get bingo gets a gift sub. So if you want to, just do command !bingo and the bingo card will pop up. 1 card per person, please. First to testify was former FBI Field Supervisor Clifford Colvin, who from 2015 to 2017 worked under Comey on clandestine beta tests that involve abducting and executing vagrants, society's discarded homeless population. Pressed by Vice Admiral Hannock, Colvin gave an impassioned description of how Comey's private, quote, hit team sought out and targeted persons least likely to have someone to report them missing, and often held joint operations with Federal Emergency Management Agency. Together, often during natural disasters, they would illicitly beguile the homeless into believing the federal government had sent them on a mission of mercy to feed and shelter the helpless and the forgotten. Colvin's statement corroborated testimony given by Derek White on day 1 of Comey's tribunal. Man, they really hate disaster relief from the federal government, don't they? Just pretending it's like murder squads. Weird. I deeply regret what I've done. I regret following unlawful orders. I own my actions, though, and am prepared to answer for my crimes. The directives came down from James Comey, Colvin said. And James Comey had a hand in the murder of Derek White's father and the others who went to the guillotine. How exactly were victims selected? Did Comey personally tell you who to target? Vice Admiral Hannock asked. We were told to use our discretion, but only select homeless, vagabonds, drug addicts, those type of people. It's not like James Comey gave us a list of names. We were told the operation was part of a psychological stress test to see how people reacted when faced with certain death by unconventional means. That doesn't even make sense. What observations were they gathering on a boat with a guillotine on it? It appears that when you say you're going to cut someone's head off, they don't like it. Yes. Good data we've gathered today. What the fuck? Uncle Bucket says, I found my conspiracy theorist uncle's YouTube channel this morning. He does anti-vax plandemic rants vertically in his car. No slurs. Can I link? Please do. Daddy Sume says, okay, but why? Why would they do this? This other than mustache twirling cartoon villainy? There is no reason. It doesn't make sense. Don't bring logic into it. It's QAnon bullshit. It's the mind of a child. To these people, good and evil are not descriptors of certain actions. There are just people who are evil, and because they are evil, they do awful bad things. It's like in the real world, when people do evil things, what we would consider evil things, it's generally because they're either like sociopaths or psychopaths, and they get some sort of pleasure out of whatever they're doing, or it's a person who might not be a sociopath or a psychopath, but they're just doing something for their own benefit, for power or money, or just to benefit themselves. But in the mind of these people, they're just people who are like evil because movie evil. It's ridiculous. Ice Queen says, yeah, I don't quite understand why they think FEMA is so sinister. I mean, I know they believe there's death camps, but I don't know precisely where the fear comes from. The cynical part of me wants to say because FEMA is, well, imperfect, a part of the federal government that's overall good. Like, the idea of, like, disaster relief is a positive thing that the federal government should do. So they just demonize it because they can't have FEMA just be a good thing the government does. That makes the government look good. I don't know. Ice Queen read that one. Sorry. Steve with the Q says, no, not FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency. FEMA, the Fictional Extrajudicial Murder Association. Lots of people mix them up. Moppy Mutton says, this sounds like a Steven Seagal movie. Sky Comet Fallen says, I think the guillotines are supposed to be scary form of execution. They need to read up on the history of punishment, particularly along Key, Death by 1,000 Cuts, and the Brazen Bull. Oh, I'm aware of the Brazen Bull. Come on, Chuds, you can make better scary stories. Yeah, relatively speaking, a guillotine is not the scariest. It might be scary. I mean, any way you're going to be killed is scary, but, like, if someone's telling me you have a list of, like, 10 different ways to die and guillotines on that list, guillotine goes above, like, firing squad. Guillotine goes above most of them. Maybe even above lethal injection. Definitely above electrocution. Guillotines, at least. And yes, I know your head stays alive for a little bit, but not long enough for me to care. At least it would be quick if it's a well-made guillotine. Guy Comet Fallen says Ling Chi, not a Mung Chi. Gotcha. Raven says, I don't like using evil. I don't believe anyone is truly evil, nor the opposite. There's no such thing as benevolence, just good and bad people. Sometimes good people do bad things they believe is good, and bad people sometimes do good things most of the time for financial gain. I don't agree. Evil is just a descriptor we use for certain things. Hitler is evil. Hitler is evil specifically because of the actions he took. Hitler is evil. Mussolini is evil. There are evil people in the world. I don't mean that in some scary cartoon villain way. I mean that there are people whose actions do so much harm to others that they breach that line of they are fucking evil. I don't necessarily think an entire person is good or evil in the cartoon black and white sense. People do actions, and some actions hurt people, and some actions help people. But if you hurt enough people, you're fucking evil. Lagroads, thanks for 16 months. Profane Priestess says, that actually isn't accurate. There are decent reasons to believe the guillotine failed multiple times in the French Revolution. I'm sure it did. I still think I'd have a better shot than an electric chair. Blackwing Hecate says, if you want a bad way to go, look up escapism. I don't think I will. Uncle Bucket with a link to the Uncle's conspiracy channel. which I'll take a look at later. Anyway, Colvin elaborated on his story, claiming that Comey's endgame, had it succeeded, would have seen a nationwide roundup of patriots and militia members, all of whom would have been shipped to FEMA camps to await execution by guillotine. Colvin said the FBI and FEMA had practiced on countless homeless people dating back to Hurricane Katrina in 2008, when Obama took office. Oh no, I thought that was one sentence. There was a period. I was going to say, is this claiming Obama was president during Katrina? No. So I guess George W. Bush was involved in this too, according to them. In 2008, when Obama took off... Wait, they said Obama was the mastermind of this. If they're saying they were already doing this during Hurricane Katrina, George W. Bush would have been the president. What the fuck? Get your own bullshit story straight, guys. At least think it through. In 2008, when Obama took office, the FBI began accelerating the program, sometimes executing as many as 50 homeless people a week. Honestly, for the FBI, that's unimpressive. Moppy Mutton says, Cliff Cloven and Cliff Clavin? Coincidence? I think not. Obama didn't take office till 2009. That's true. Election was 2008. Of course, he gets inaugurated in January. Do you know for certain that Obama instructed Comey to carry out these instructions? Vice Admiral Hannick asked. I cannot. My orders came from James Comey. Comey, who had sat silently through much of Colvin's testimony, abruptly interrupted the witness, calling him a bold-faced liar who was obviously paid to give false testimony. Comey said he rebuked Colvin's falsehoods and pleaded with the tribunal to discount blatant lies designed to wrongfully incriminate him. But Colvin stood ground, leaping to his feet and pointing a rigid index finger in Comey's direction. At least I admit I deserve what fate comes my way. You're a sick man, Comey. You ordered me to order others to execute innocent people for no other reason than to satisfy for your perverse, sadistic mind. This person's only idea of court comes from Law & Order and Perry Mason. Wait, Perry Mason? Was he a lawyer? I think so. Matlock. I know Matlock's a lawyer. Princess Amelia says, objection! Vice Admiral Hannick dealt Comey a cataclysmic blow. He showed the tribunal 25 FBI internal memos, each bearing Comey's initials, which directed regional supervisors to scour the streets of New Orleans, New York, Philadelphia, Austin, and Los Angeles for, quote, volunteers to participate in the agency's guillotine program. Comey in several documents admonished subordinates for not meeting the FBI's quota. We gotta pump these numbers up. Guillotine hungry. Comey's hands didn't release the blades. He's far too much of a coward himself, so others did his dirty work. Yet he was sloppy enough to implicate himself with his paperwork, which JAG found with little effort. He can deny whatever he wants, and witness testimony aside, these documents alone inculpate Comey in one of the greatest massacres against Americans. Let's be clear. Per the Office of Military Commissions, Comey did not have to release the blades to be found guilty of mass murder. That he knowingly took part in these crimes, if your officers accept that, it is evidence enough to convict. The ball, as they say, is in your court, Vice Admiral Hannick finished. That's how lawyers talk. 15 minutes later, the panel delivered its verdict. 15 minutes, wow. Impressive. The panel delivered its verdict, guilty on all counts, and a recommendation that Comey be executed the very way he had ordered the execution of so many others. By guillotine. Vice Admiral Hannick said JAG had broad discretion in sentencing and agreed to putting Comey's head on the chopping block, the sentence to be carried out no later than July 4th, 2021. You get it. Let's look. What's James Comey up to? James Comey. What's he up to? Is he in the news? Has he commented on anything recently? Ice Queen says, gotta be 15 minutes. They have a lot of people to try. I guess so. Does he have social media or anything? That'd be helpful. Twitter. Let's see. Comey, that's a retweet. January 18th. He doesn't tweet very often. They must have got him. I guess he is dead. That's a joke. But seriously, I find this website hilarious. Just the utter fan fiction is absolutely ridiculous and pretty fucking funny. Some of the other more recent articles are Bill Gates Military Tribunal Day 2, military arrests Hunter Biden because having a big dick is apparently a crime now. You get it. Funny stuff.